I've been doing a lot of thinking about change lately. As I reflected on it, I realized over the years that I've seen two different groups of people. There are those of us who really like change and seem to embrace it. Maybe we don't find all change exciting or easy, but we, for the most part, don't avoid it. And then there's the other group that seems to really dislike change, and they'll do about anything to avoid it. They find it very painful, very difficult. So which group do you think you fit in? Are you of the first group who embraces it, or do you find yourself really dreading it and avoiding it? I have to say I fit into the group that tends to embrace it. I actually don't mind change. I've made some big changes in my life. I've moved across the United States a couple times, and I'd have to say, though, this last year has probably been too much change and a little overwhelming. So I wouldn't advise that. I think that's been very hard. But for the most part, I don't find change terribly difficult. So once we know what group we fit in, I think then the next challenge becomes, how do we deal with change and deal with it well? Probably some of you are not surprised to know, maybe you already know, that I really like sci-fi. I'm a big science fiction fan. In fact, if you had to ask me to choose between Star Wars and Star Trek, I'd say Star Trek wins all the way, although I really like Star Wars too. But I love Star Trek. You may not be aware of, but Star Trek actually had several full-length movies. And the first movie, which didn't do very well in the box office, had a great metaphor in it for change. In it, the Starship Enterprise gets stuck in an energy force and can't break free. It spends all this time and energy trying over and over and over to break free. And that's what most of us do. When we encounter a situation that requires us to have to face change, we tend to flinch. We tend to pull back and avoid it. We tend to not want to look at it and face it. We do things to distract ourselves. Maybe we pretend we don't feel the feelings that we have about it. We get stuck, and it's not very helpful when that happens. Well, in the movie, the ship discovers that it's not working, so it tries another strategy, and it punches through. It pushes through and goes forward into the energy force and ends up finding that by moving forward and through it, it actually gets to the other side. And I think that's a good metaphor for how we need to embrace change and to make it work for us. I think the best way to cope with change is to face it head on and to go move into it and really face and experience the feelings we have about it. Face the fears and maybe the sadness that we have, as well as face the things that worry us or our concerns. I think by facing the difficulties or the things that we're concerned about, it really allows us to punch our way through, to push our way through it addressing the things that we're concerned about is a really nice way to resolve those very feelings and put them to rest. So this week, I've been doing some hard things as I face change. I did two things in particular on Saturday. It was a gorgeous day here, really sunny, and it was warm. And so the first thing I did is I went to a township boardwalk that I love to visit with Zoe. In fact, my dog. I had Zoe for 9 years. She was my golden doodle, and she passed away 2 years ago. And her and I would love to take this walk on the boardwalk, and it was a perfect day to visit the boardwalk. It was so lovely out. In fact, while I was out there, I ran into another owner who had a golden doodle just like Zoe, just looked like her, in fact, and this owner allowed me to take a photo of her and her dog. So it was really nice being out there and to think about my visits with Zoe and what it was like those years ago taking this walk with her. And then the second thing I did is I visited the home that Brad and I built in 1996. We lived there for 18 years. And in fact, I was able to meet the new owner, and she gave me permission to walk around the house and to think about the 18 years that I spent there raising the kids and being with Brad. It was really nice. It was very, very beautiful. And it did a lot for me to see that she was taking good care of the home, and it looked even more lovely than when I lived there. And so those were the two things I did this week to sort of to deal with the changes that in my life as a way to embrace them, as a way for me to move forward and to face the feelings that I had. So what changes are you facing, and how are you dealing with them? Are you avoiding them, or are you moving through them and facing them? I would love to hear from you. And thanks for joining me today. I wish you all the best wishes.